Good afternoon. We're going to just put this little video up on multiplying and dividing by base 10 numbers and numbers that end in 0. So our first part, and we already did this a couple weeks ago when we were converting grams to newtons and kilograms to newtons for our pressure formulas. But we just want to make sure we understand that base 10 numbers in this case are any numbers that start with a 1 and end in zeros. So I have the example 10, that's a base 10 number. So is 1,000, starts with 1, ends in zeros. And then we get into our exponent numbers, exponential notation. This really means we talked about this in class and everyone seemed to be okay, but 10 squared is really 10 times 10, and 10 times 10 is 100. And an easy way to do this without doing this step each time is to just simply look here. The exponent is 2, so when you go to write this, put a 1 down and 2 zeros. So again, when we go to do this next one here, 10 to the exponent 5, I could write out 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, 5 times. Or I simply put a 1 here, and I say, okay, this exponent is 5. That is the amount of zeros that I'm going to have in my answer. So right away, I know my number is 100,000. Now that's just what a base 10 number is. Now we have to get into the idea of multiplying something by it. So, just like what we did before, if I take a number like 45 and I multiply it by 1,000, the first thing I have to do is locate the decimal. And sometimes there is no decimal in this number, but you have to know where it's placed. Where is the ones column? And it'll be just to the right of the ones column. So here's my 5, and we really don't see, but there is really a decimal there. We don't put it because we're not using it, but that's where it is. Anyhow, the rule of multiplying by base 10 number is when multiplying, all you do is move the decimal place the same amount of zeros that are in the question. So what I do is I write my 45, and here's my decimal, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3 decimal places to the right. 1, 2, 3. And what we do with that is we just fill them with zeros. My decimal place is right here now. We don't have to write it, but 45 times 1,000 is 45,000. The same holds true as when we have a decimal number. So I could have something like 20.75. I could multiply it by 10,000 this time. My first step is just the same. I locate where my decimal is, and my decimal is right here. And then I see how many zeros I'm going to move it to the right. And it shows me that I'm going to move it 4 places to the right. So it was here, remember. Now it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. And we replace all those with zeros. And the decimal really goes at the end, but we don't need to write it. So my new answer is 207,500. And that's how we do these ones. And we were doing pretty well with them. Next step, and it's very, very, very similar, is if I have a number like 7.5, and I'm going to multiply it by an exponential number, still base 10, but let's say 10 to the 3. If you know that 10 to the 3 is really 1,000, and like I said before, that it's just this 1 and this many zeros, then this question becomes no different than what we were doing before. We're going to move this decimal place 3 spots that way. 7.5, 1, 2, 3. Fill in the empty holes with zeros, and our new decimal place would be there. We don't need it, so we come out with 7,500. And that's the first part. Very, very similar is division. Now with division of base 10 numbers, again, we'll write an example of 45. We're going to divide it by a base 10 number, let's say 1,000 to start with. When we were multiplying, we moved to the right. We moved the decimal place to the right. The number was getting larger. This time, we're going to move the decimal place to the left, and that number will become smaller. So what we're going to do is, again, you find how many zeros are in your base 10 number, and there's 3. You locate where your decimal is at the moment, and it's right there. And we start to make the number smaller by going the same number of zeros. So I will move the decimal place 1, 2, 3. My new decimal is here, and I fill in a 0 for every place that is not occupied by a number. So this new answer would be decimal 0, 4, 5. So another one, we can have a whole bunch of zeros in here. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to continue to make it smaller. Divide this by 100. If we divide this by 100, that's 2 spaces. Remember, we're going to move it to the left when we divide. So the number was 003, and we're going to move this 1 spot, 2 spots, because remember, there's 2 zeros that we're changing it by. The new decimal will be there, so my new number will be 00003. And that's all there is to this part. And lastly, I want to show you is when we multiply with numbers, multiply or divide by numbers with zeros in them. So here are 2 examples, 30 times 20,000. And most people before yesterday would have said, oh, I can't do that. I need to go reach for my calculator. Well, actually, there's a trick what we're going to do here. What you do is you look at the number in front of all the zeros, so that's the 2, and you look at the other term, which is 30. And you say to yourself, okay, in my head, can I do 2 times 30? And we should. It's 60. So that's just the first part. But now we have these 3 decimal places that we have, or sorry, 4 decimal places we haven't touched. There's really 4 more places to put it. And remember, before, a few minutes ago, when we multiplied by base 10 numbers, we counted the zeros and moved our decimal place to the right. It's the same thing here. 60 is our number, and we're going to add in those 4 zeros right there, technically moving the decimal place the 4 spaces. So 30 times 20,000 would actually be 600,000. Pretty easy number to do. I'll only give you numbers that you can do in your head. But anyhow, here's another example, 1.5 and 4. We're not going to worry about the zeros for now. We're just going to say, do I know what 1.5 times 4 is? And you should, hopefully, with your mental math, know that 1.4 or 1.5 times 4 is 6. Now, I have 6, but remember, I have these 3 zeros I have to deal with. It's 3 decimal places to the right because I'm multiplying. So we go 1, 2, 3. We just add those zeros right down. So 1.5 times 4,000 is actually 6,000. You might have known that in your head without doing it this way, but it's a great way to start doing some mental math without reaching for your calculator every time. And lastly, I'm going to show you a couple division questions, and then you're off to your practice. Okay, with division, just like before, we're going to move the decimal place to the left. But you start with the numbers that will go into each other evenly. And it only works out for our math that we're going to do in this class. I'll only use numbers that are really easy to fit in. Hopefully you know 9 and 9 is a double. That 9 goes into 81 9 times. So if I'm going to divide 81 divided by 9, that's going to be 9. Here's my decimal place in that answer. But I'm dividing and I have 3 zeros still left over there to deal with. Remember, when we're dividing, we're going to move that 3 places to the left and fill in everything with zeros. So if I now was to say this answer, my answer of 81 divided by 9,000 would be decimal 009. Do it again here. I'm going to start with my initial numbers, 35 and 7. Hopefully you know that 7 goes into 35 5 times. I remember that I have 2 zeros left to deal with still. And when I'm dividing and I'm moving with base 10 numbers, I'm moving to my left. So here's my decimal place right there, and I'm going to move it 2 spots. When I move this 2 spots, my new number will be decimal 05. This was a little bit of a quick review. We've spent a couple days on it now. Make sure you finish your practice questions, and if any questions, we'll deal with them tomorrow. Nice job.